The countryside needs to be opened up so people can enjoy it. Its resources need conserving and protecting from pollution. So shelters are being erected along cross-country trails, and metal is being recovered using sustainable methods.
I
did the rounds of the banks, trying to attract investors to back my idea. It was all uphill till I met the Leader Plus team. Leader Plus said the network was a great idea, but it would have to cover the entire region so that all 7 Leader Plus municipalities are on board. As a result, it turned out much bigger than we'd originally intended. Our group is strongly involved locally, and so we have what it takes to identify the right projects.
This is Northwest Zealand. Towns with commerce and services, towns with industry, and towns with local authority administration. Countryside with unique landscapes and a protracted coastline. But beauty doesn't generate jobs by itself, apart from tourism and the huge conglomerations of holiday homes along the coast. Bigger and bigger farming machinery can be operated by fewer and fewer hands, so rural jobs are disappearing at an increasing rate. This has been going on for decades.
Educational attainment is low here, so we need jobs that can be done by unskilled employees.
Unskilled jobs in particular are vanishing abroad. That's one major reason for the measures Local Action Group Northwest Zealand has set in motion. In the village of Gørlev, Ejvind Pedersen came up with an idea. He wanted to recover metal from waste in a new, cleaner way. The existing process used water, and the water became contaminated. Ejvind Pedersen wanted to use a magnet instead of water.
It's an induction magnet. The polarity switches rapidly, and the aluminium gets thrown a long way. In principle, copper doesn't get thrown so far because its mass is much greater than that of aluminium. Aluminium flies 2 meters, but copper just half a meter. So you can put bins in place to collect the metal in. And that is what we do.
The idea came to him at a glass factory. He saw the way a powerful magnet could remove aluminium lids from the glass.
This method is cleaner because we don't add water, and it doesn't take much energy. We don't use much electricity in the production process.
The idea wasn't just good, it was so good that it's now the standard and state-of-the-art in Danish metal recovery. But the banks were sceptical. They wouldn't lend him the capital he needed to get started. They knew Ejvind Pedersen because 10 years previously he'd gone bankrupt through this aluminium factory in Gørlev. When the price of aluminium fell, Sweden devalued her currency and he was saddled with expensive bank loans. He'd taken out the loans because he was unable to obtain a mortgage for industrial premises in a village. The buildings are now in the hands of another industrial firm. But in April 2002, he went to a meeting in Gørlev about business development. The program coordinator, Karsten Lægdsmand, talked about Leader Plus.
Ejvind Pedersen stood up. He said, "I don't think you'll be able to give me backing." But I said, "Let's hear what you've got."
A little farther north, Steffen Holberg ran Godthåb mill as the sole proprietor. He was active in outdoor leisure pursuits, and one of his products was basic shelters for sleeping rough.
The trick is that all these parts fit together. We make all the notches at the sawmill, so everything will fit.
Steffen Holberg had developed a special assembly method for the shelters.
See? It all fits.
Steffen Holberg had built 3 such shelters for sleeping rough in nearby Europe. Now he wanted to build shelters at 2 other sites in the countryside. This would form a network of shelters.
So I told Leader Plus about them, and Leader Plus thought the network should be much bigger. I thought it was a great idea, but I also thought it was far too restricted with just 2 sites. 7 municipalities were in our group. I envisaged a network of shelter sites throughout the 7. That would form an overall network. So we told him, come back with a better, bigger project.
Immediately after the Leader Plus meeting in Gørlev, Ejvind Pedersen submitted an application to the local action group. Karsten Lægdsmand worked out that as a private company, Ejvind could obtain 10% of his setting up costs from Leader Plus. The state put in another 10%.
The effect was that the banks now believed the project was viable. Firstly, it was real money, and secondly, there were other people who saw the sense of my idea. Thing is, the banks aren't always the brainiest of people.
And in 2002, Alex Recycling went into production. The company now processes 600 to 700 tons of shredder metal a month. That's a tenth of the Danish market. The company has a workforce of 10. At Godthåb mill, Steffen Holberg started planning a new project with shelters along trails throughout West Zealand.
What I did was to talk to and make arrangements with a range of different groups. After all, some 20 sites would be included in the network, which means 20 different builders, the Scouts, DGI, the Forestry Commission, private campsites, landowners, etc. I agreed with each of them how much work they'd have to put into the project.
Ja, det er jo et almennyttigt projekt, og det vil sige, så kan man få 25.
It's a social project, so you can obtain 25% backing from the EU, and this may be augmented by Danish public grants of 25%.
Komme med de sidste 50% i form af enten.
In this case, there was a huge voluntary effort that could be expressed in cash terms.
Var det jo i et stort omfang frivillig indsats, der kunne gøres op i kroner og øre.
All the timber to be sawn for the shelters meant work for Agersfold Woods and Agersfold Sawmill.
Making the shelters increased our turnover by 15 to 20% a year, which is half a full-time job. And while we were making the shelters, they were our biggest customer. This project may well have been what gave us a sustainable umbrella to embrace the projects with.
The Committee of Development Northwest Zealand now comprises the local action group for the municipalities of Odsherred, Kalundborg, Holberg and Sorø. The committee members are elected from 4 groups representing the general public and movers and shakers, clubs and societies, commerce and the local authorities. Our group is strongly involved locally, and so we have what it takes to identify the right projects. This is demonstrated by the breadth of the ideas we get in, and which the group decides are worth supporting. They include projects like the sleeping shelters, which can be made more extensive because we look at the whole, and more commercial projects, such as the shredder metal one, where we generated workplaces for unskilled staff. It's important for members of the local action group to look at the whole picture, to contribute your own knowledge and reinforce the project that way, and to start a dialogue on how the project might hang together with other projects we're running. We're able to reach a much greater network than if we were members of green organizations, where we'd only have our own little networks. In our case, we have tourism, agriculture, and local councils involved, so we have a broad network we can use for our entire platform. Alex is highly competitive, even though Ejvind Pedersen's competitors have also adopted his magnetic system. Today, Steffen Holberg's shelters grace the North Sea Trail, and he's working on new products such as mud toilets and Finnish saunas using the same building techniques.
Hi, is that Ejvind? My name's Steffen. You're a Leader Plus man too? Yes, that's exactly what I am.